Hi everyone, this is Clarice. Today I want to talk to you about making the best out of your expat experience. Now I know we come from different backgrounds, we're different ages, we come from different countries, but I'm sure that these tips are pretty universal and that they might help you or give you at least a bit of insight as to how you can make your experience even better in your country. So if you're interested, keep on watching. Now, the number one tip I have is to learn the language. This not only gives you something to do, you'll never be bored while you're learning the language. You will also be able to immerse yourself in the culture easier. You will be able to understand and interact with the locals, and also daily life will be much easier for you. It's not to say that learning the language is always fun. For example, if you're working full-time and taking evening courses, this is really tiring. I had to do that myself, and ultimately I stopped it in the end because it was too expensive and it was I wasn't really getting the most out of it. But if you're in the lucky position where you can take intensive courses during the day, I find them to be really good, and you're fresh out of it in the morning, and sometimes you even want to learn more than the 2-3 hours that are allocated to you for an intensive language course. This is what I actually did in Japan. Actually, I went there originally to take an intensive course to pass my level 2 JLPT level 2 exam, but in the end it doesn't matter if you're already experienced in a certain language. I think taking a language course in any case is really rewarding. And leading up to that is that you should put effort into mingling with the locals, whether it's going to the pub or the bar and speaking to other people in their language, or joining a language exchange program where you just go to the coffee shop and just exchange languages. In German it's called having a tandem partner, so it is different of how you exchange your language. Some people do half the time in one language, half the time in another language, or you just alternate speaking one language and the other. The thing I wouldn't recommend is to find a partner to learn the language on purpose. This comes across as kind of creepy, at least for me, when guys would message me and say, "Oh, do you want to learn the language?" and first meeting they act all weird. So I don't recommend that. Another tip is to be respectful. You should always be culturally aware of what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. This is not only learning the language, but also learning the customs and traditions as well. You shouldn't have to go that much into it, like you don't have to study the history of something, but just know what is polite in a certain setting and what is not polite. So for example, in Germany, you shouldn't really address people in a business setting with their first names on a first name basis. You should always say Mr. so-and-so as in using their surnames. The same thing goes in Japanese. You should usually address them first with their last names, unless they're expecting you to use their first names because you're on a friendly basis with each other. Yeah, these sort of things you should be aware of, so you don't make any mistakes, or you don't inadvertently cause some sort of offense. But that's not to say you can't make mistakes. Actually, that's also a tip. You shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. You can laugh about them later, and you can apologize if you made a really big mistake. But The mistakes I'm usually talking about are people who are scared of speaking the language because they don't want to make a grammatic mistake or they don't want to say something wrong. I think it's totally fine to make a mistake in that way, and if someone points that out to you, then you'll definitely remember it later, right? Or if the more embarrassing the story, the more it sticks in your head. Another tip I have is to trying things out on your own. Maybe you are in an expat situation where you came over as a partner. If you are traveling as two people, or if you came over because your girlfriend or boyfriend is in this country. I would encourage you to try things out on your own for a while and be a bit more independent. There are some things you'll discover which you can't really do as two people or three people or whatever. And also, I think people will open up to you if you're more on your own than as opposed to if you're traveling as a group. And my final tip is that understand that it's tough sometimes. Sometimes you feel lonely, sometimes you feel isolated, sometimes you feel really homesick, but that's all part of the experience. Yeah, so make the best out of it. Remember, you're never alone. There's always friends back home, there's family back home that you can talk to. Maybe they don't understand everything you're going through, but there's also a huge expat community usually, and just go online and see if there's any groups that can support you. And of course, don't be afraid to talk to your new friends in your new country. I'm sure they're really curious, and some people can't imagine moving all the way to somewhere else and starting a new life there. Just talk about it. I mean, it's really interesting to some people, and the more you talk about it, the more people will understand. So that's actually part of why I am creating this channel. I want to talk about it. Sometimes I feel like I can't really explain it in German, and I can't explain it really in English to some of my friends because I'm such an introverted person, and I think, they're not really interested. But ultimately, I think so because I've been getting pretty good feedback in these videos. So yeah, those are my tips, and if you found this interesting, give me a like, don't forget to subscribe, and leave me a comment if you have any other tips as an expat. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.